It's actually my first real-life conference for about 4 years. I'm sure it's the same for you, so it's an absolute pleasure to be here to talk to you. My name's Jessica. I'm the Partnerships Director at WeForest. I'm the Funding Partnerships Director, so I work with all of the 400 organisations that's funded WeForest past and hopefully future. I started out life as a geologist, so I looked at dead things in the past, and I'm delighted to have changed my view, and I look towards the future in life. WeForest is a non-profit. We're headquartered in Belgium. We've grown from a team of volunteers that started 12 years ago to over 70 people now, 2/3 of whom work in our project sites. And we work with, of the 400 organisations who I mentioned, there'll be names that you know, like Nike, who's been one of our longest supporters, and more recently with impact investors like Shell's New Business Solutions. I appreciate there's an intake of breath when we talk about Shell, but they're one of the early founding risk-taking impact investors that we've found. And that's me with them in the mangrove sites that we work in. I want to talk to you about our Great Green Wall programme. This is incredible for me. I've, as I said, worked with lots of organisations, lots of projects. This one, for me, represents the best of restoring forests. It actually goes to what Kofi and Christoph talked about, partnerships and commitment. I think a lot of the times when we talk about impact and returns, you can just go and plant plantation forestry if you want a carbon return. I mean, just go and do that. This is about providing maximum impact for climate, people, and nature. And when you do that, you naturally have to work in some of the most challenging places that you will find. And so to be able to do that successfully, you need to find the right partnerships, and you need commitment to go through the really tricky stuff. Our Great Green Wall programme started with my amazing colleague, Aklilu here, who's an ecologist, who has built the partnerships in Ethiopia from the national government to the regional government, all the way down to work with the 14 villages that we currently work with. It's a 38,000 hectare, so I guess that's about 50,000 football pitches of a landscape. And as I said, we started in 2016, and curveballs happen in forest and landscape restoration, and in particular in Ethiopia, this region in the north, where essentially erratic rainfall, one failed rainfall, means the difference between life and death. The war began here in 2020. So clearly with his 2 PhDs, started to manage teams of humanitarian truck drivers working with the World Food Programme to deliver seeds and fertilizers to 23,000 farming families that we've worked with since 2016. So it's about commitment, and it's about partnerships to be able to get through to make maximum impact. And so through our learnings and through our experience in Ethiopia, which I'll share a bit more with you, we've moved to our newest location in the Great Green Wall. This Ethiopia is at the eastern end. The Great Green Wall movement, which is an African-led movement, aims to build a green barrier, if you like, to stop the desert encroaching. And so we're moving to the western end into Senegal, where in this northern region called the furlough, rainfall is extremely low. You can't just plant a huge amount of trees. There isn't enough water. So some of you will know Omar, our latest colleague on the left there, and we started planting scientific experiment sites to be able to figure out, how do you do this successfully? How do you do it able to withstand the low rainfall? Do you add hydrogel? Do you add all kinds of scientific partnerships to be able to make sure that this can be successful? And so the two ends of this Great Green Wall for us represent two different things. In Ethiopia, we're looking to scale up our programme, and in Senegal, we're looking for catalyst funding. Our achievements in Ethiopia to date, since 2016, we have over 12,000 hectares already under restoration. That's actually incredible, and I just want to point out, I don't know if you can spot this, but you see all of these tiny little pits. They're little micro basins that are dug by the communities who create these little basins. Some of them are small, some of them are big, and they hold the water. The rainfall only happens for 2 months of the year. They hold the water so that the seedlings can survive the dry season. And we've got an over 92% survival rate for seedlings here, which is phenomenal. And it's all about preparation, preparation, preparation. The seedlings stay in the nursery for 18 months so that they're strong enough to withstand the very challenging conditions here. Thousands of families take part. I mentioned Aklilu, he works with our partners on the ground, and thousands of families take part in this program every year. And it's through those programs that we have not just forest and landscape restoration isn't planting trees, it is about creating the environment to be able to have trees thrive and trees protected. And so programs like beekeeping, where high-value honey in this particular region can provide seriously high levels of income that mean the families don't have to depend on degrading the forest for survival. So we've got over 9,000 families engaged so far, and we'll be scaling that up over the next 10 years. In Senegal, the program, even though the ecosystem and the ecology is different, the principle of putting communities first is absolutely crucial. And here, even though the program is about reforestation, the most important partner, the right partnership for us, is a group who've been working with the communities, the pastoral communities, who actually have high-intensity livestock, who need to roam the land. You can't fence off an area. That just interferes with everyone, and it's a reason why the Great Green Wall really scale-up hasn't taken off in some places. So we now have all 3 pastoral units who are engaged. They're defining how big the restoration parcels are so that it doesn't affect their livelihoods, and we're working with them to be able to design and choose the tree species that they want. And so 2 of the 3 sites that we're planning to plant in are already mapped and agreed with the community, and initial planting's begun. The funding we're looking for in Senegal is catalyst funding. We're looking for €3 million over 2 years to plant and regreen 1,000 hectares with 15 tree species. And these species are things like the baobab, balanites, trees that can survive and thrive, these native trees in the area, to provide crops. The baobab has fruits that can produce powder. There are women's associations that already use these products, and they also provide income for the communities. The added difference, I guess, if you like, for this is I've already mentioned scaling up here. There is no protocol for how you do this successfully, and if you can imagine how huge this program could be, we need scientific evidence and a protocol for how you restore scientifically. So we're working with the ISRA, the Senegalese Research Institute, sociologically and technically to figure out how this program could work. And once we've done that, in the next 2 years, we can demonstrate an evidence-based model that will allow us to scale up 10 times in phase 2. And we already have the support of the African Development Bank and their French environment funding facility. So catalyst funding is what we're looking for in Senegal. And scale-up funding in Ethiopia. We've already demonstrated that we can do this. We've demonstrated it through war, which is perhaps the biggest test of time. We're looking for almost 11 million over the next 7 years to plant and protect 10,500 hectares. We've actually created the foundations for a carbon program here. The PDD, the project design document's already developed. It's gone through its first public consultation program. The war put a hold on all of those activities, although not the restoration sites, incredibly. We're expecting our PDD to go through a validation stage when the auditor's permitted to go. And so that is expected to deliver 1.6 million tons of carbon. And not only that, but support 10,000 families. As I mentioned, beekeeping. We also have small livestock programs to increase the support for local families, the 23,000 families that I told you live in this landscape. People often ask us whether we've got fancy high-tech remote sensing imagery. Yes, of course we do, but that's not the point. You cannot have fancy technology without recognizing that you have to monitor on the ground. So we have a combination of site-based monitoring, remote-based monitoring, and our programs have log frames. So where do you want to get to, and how do you determine if you're going to get there? So we have monitoring at every 1 year, 2 years, 5-year intervals. And we even have partnerships, for example, with the University of Mekelle in Ethiopia, where we're just about to identify how we can measure the impact that the restoration sites have had on soil moisture retention, which is a crucial part of soil fertility and soil health. Thank you very much indeed for the invitation and for your attention. Please come and find me. Please come and talk to me. We'd be delighted to explore collaboration. Thank you.